All right. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today to talk about the state of video web archiving in 2025. We hope that this is useful for you all. Um, I think this is going to be a good picture into what you can expect from videos today, because we know that video is a challenging platform, a challenging media type to collect and replay, and it's always changing. So that's why we're doing this as a kind of state of how things are right now. This might change soon, who knows? But hopefully this gives you like a good overview of what you can expect from your video content. My name is Sylvie Rollison-Cass. I'm a product manager for Archive It, and I'm joined by my colleague Tanya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Elmer, one of the web archivists on the team at Archive It.
And we are going to talk through a handful of things today. We are going to quickly discuss why video can be so challenging to collect and understand some of the hurdles for streaming and playback. Talk a little bit about what Archive It has done to improve its video collection capabilities. Talk about the tools that we use and how we use them and how you can kind of use them in your workflows. Tanya is going to talk about some of the sort of best practices and what to expect from some of the more commonly collected platforms like YouTube, Vimeo, and some others. We'll talk a little bit about troubleshooting and scope considerations, so tips that you can take with you to determine whether a video was collected, and maybe a few things that you can try to see if you can get it to replay if it's not, as well as tips for limiting the amount of data that you're collecting. And then taking a look ahead at what we have planned as far as development around video collection and replay. I think it's important to kind of start by just saying that a lot of these platforms are, well, first of all, that with all things web archiving, it's very challenging to say that this is always the way it is. It's always kind of, it's never really black or white. It's always sort of a general recommendations. Like we think that this is what we tend to see. This is what you can generally expect, but everyone is going to have, it's often a different experience depending on the site or the platform or even the version of the platform that you're using. So just consider that as you kind of take in this information. But with all that said, we hope that you'll leave this session with a better understanding of how Archive It collects and replays video content. We hope that you kind of understand the best practices for collecting video from some of the common platforms and what you can expect from them generally, as I mentioned, and have some confidence taking next steps when video collecting doesn't go the way you might have expected it to. So to kick things off, just a high-level overview of why video collection can be a little bit challenging. I know this probably isn't new to a lot of you, but I'm just gonna put it out there. Videos tend to include multiple components like audio, video files, captions, things like that. Sometimes the videos are served up in segments, so you have to collect each individual one in order to stitch them all together to have a playable media file. And that can be challenging for crawlers to collect. Most platforms use playback systems that are designed for streaming. They want to get their content out there to people with as few kind of hiccups or roadblocks as possible. They are not really considering long-term preservation. We are, they're not. So another consideration to keep in mind. And streaming platforms deliver content in a number of different ways, and those methods are changing all the time. So it's really kind of a process of trying to catch up with platforms to be able to continually collect and replay the media that they're providing. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Archive It has been doing for the past few years to try to improve the way that we collect and replay videos. Crawlers in general were not the best at collecting embedded media or any type of kind of streaming media. They sometimes will be able to get individual media files, but things like segmented video, streaming media is challenging. So in 2020, we introduced YouTube-dl as an additional video collecting tool to all browser crawls. So this started working alongside browser crawls in 2020. In 2022, we transitioned to YTDLP, which is a more, we'll talk about this in a second, but another fork of YouTube-dl that offers better platform capability, has more features, tends to work a little bit better. And then we expanded this to all standard and browser crawls in 2024. And that is sort of the current state. We are maintaining, or we are updating our YouTube-dlp as they come out with new versions. And so let's talk about what is this tool. YouTube-dl or YTDLP. We'll start with YouTube-dl. It's an open source tool for downloading videos, audio, and related metadata from websites and things like social media. YTDLP is a more actively maintained fork of YouTube-dl. So in 2022, I think it was 2021, development kind of stalled on YouTube-dl, but started on YTDLP. So that's a more actively maintained version. It has improved capability and more features. So that's what we switched to. And the reason we use these is because they are more reliable and more able to directly retrieve media files so that we can ensure that this content is preserved in a form that is playable. The other benefit is that it is actively maintained by a community of volunteer developers. They have regular releases and updates. So we on the Archive It team don't have to constantly be trying to keep our crawlers up to date with all of these different, thousands of different types of streaming media platforms. We have a tool that is being updated regularly, and so we can update our version of YTDLP, and that's all the work that we need to do. And so the way that it works is by identifying the media URLs on a website, downloading them as standalone files, along with contextual metadata about what was collected and where it came from. And this information is important because Wayback uses it to actually identify where a media file needs to be replayed, so the page on which it needs to be replayed. So you've probably seen this in your host reports. You'll see YouTube-dl listed. Now, I want to just remind everybody that we use YTDLP. That's the version we use right now. The UI has not caught up to that. It still says YouTube-dl. It's the same thing. So you will see YouTube-dl listed in the host report of any crawl that you run. And if you were to click into that entry there, you would see a list of files. You will see the video file, which will appear as a sort of a URL, but starting with YouTube-dl and then with a numeric string. This is the file that you can click and open and watch a video play in your browser. It also includes a metadata file. And so this is going to look like, in the case of YouTube watch pages, for example, it's going to have the same URL, but it will have YouTube-dl in front of it without that numeric string. And we'll take a closer look at these in just a few minutes. But right now, I am going to turn things over to Tanya, who's going to give us a kind of overview of what we can expect and best practices for some of the more frequently collected platforms.
Thanks, Sylvie. Oh, gee. Sorry, I can't share. Sorry about this, folks. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Great. So, hi, folks. I'm here to tell you about the common platforms and the best practices for collecting the videos from these platforms. Also, the current state of what you can expect for replay on some of these pages. We do our best to stay up to date on these common platforms. We have a dedicated account where we run weekly crawls on these platforms and try to monitor them and take note of any trends or issues that we see cropping up. Of course, these weekly crawls could be already out of date, so we also can take into consideration partner comments. We really welcome them. Please keep them coming and thank you for all of them. These can sometimes alert us to issues since the last weekly crawl's finished, and we can corroborate in that account. And if we see widespread issues, we will report them on our social media and other platform statuses page. So it's here that we have a lot of our social media expectations listed, including the YouTube platform, Vimeo, which I will talk about in great depth, and then some of the other ones like TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. So you can keep your eyes there to see what the current issues might be with those. First, we'll talk a little bit about YouTube, sorry. So as you all know, this is the most popular video platform in 2025 and has been for a number of years in the past. Overall, I think we've been rather successful in collecting YouTube videos. However, as Sylvie mentioned, it is somewhat of a moving target, and there are some challenges the platform has presented to our crawling technology and our replay wayback software over the years, including things like controls that overlay the native controls in the page, or sometimes we would see repeating rows in YouTube channels. This year in 2025, some of the challenges that we're seeing is that often the videos will replay in the banner only. They don't tend to replay in the page. It is possible if you wait long enough that they could replay in the page, but yeah, to see that replay a little bit more quickly, I would rely on the banner play button. We're also seeing some rate limiting from the YouTube platform itself to the YouTube-dlp utility that's integrated with the crawlers. So you can see this happening in action if you're crawling a YouTube URL and say it's a channel that has 20 videos and you expect to see 20 videos, but you only see 4 or 5. So we are currently trying to work with that YouTube-dlp community to find a way around this. We're also seeing increasing bot protection from the platform itself. What that looks like in replay is this message in the placeholder to sign in and confirm you're not a bot. But obviously our crawler is a bot, so it can't necessarily do that sign in. So this is a difficult challenge that we're facing. On YouTube embeds, we're increasingly seeing a 401 unauthorized status codes. This means the creators added some rights restrictions to those embed URLs. The good news is often the watch page for that video content is freely available to view and be crawled. Finally, some of the YouTube URLs that you copy directly out of your browser's address bar into your add seeds box may contain extra parameters or information at the end that's not really helpful for the crawler. And if these are collected, sometimes they can present some replay challenges. So it's quite a lengthy list. This happens because there are a lot of different kinds of formats that YouTube can serve their videos in. So we'll talk at length about some of these. So the most common format for YouTube is the watch page. This is where the individual videos are hosted on the platform. We can see that main host, www.youtube.com, and then watch. So that tells you it's a watch page. It often has a question mark, a V equals, and then this alphanumeric string at the end. So this alphanumeric string acts as an ID for this particular video only. On the page, we often see a prominent video with some controls here, the title, some indication or information about the video, and then comments. And off to the right, we'll see a bunch of random videos listed from YouTube. You'll note that my seed format does not have that trailing slash, so I know the archive it user interface prompts you to add one when you add your seeds, but I'm asking you for your watch pages, please ignore that and don't add one. Also, if you have any parameters, that extra information at the end, they often start with an ampersand after the ID. and it's like TS equals 4,000 or something. Please don't include those in your seed URL. This could misdirect the crawler or collect a version you're not that interested in collecting. I'm also going to ask that you make sure your URL has the www version of youtube.com. This is the canonical one that all the formats share. There are some other ones like YouTube for that mobile version, or a link shortener, youtube.be. Try not to make those your seed URL because these rarely ever replay functionally. When you add the www version, the bonus is that it's auto-scoped. So this means you don't even have to think about it. 2 scoping rules are automatically added to your seed that help collect all the parts that Sylvie was talking about and add functional replay to your video files. So the first one is ignore robots.txt, and the second is to exclude the URL if it matches this regular expression. And you don't even have to think about this regular expression, but what it does is it helps the crawler avoid crawler traps that YouTube's platform can present for it. So this saves your data, and another way to save your data on these watch pages is to make it a one-page seed type. So that focuses it on collecting this video only, not all of those other videos on YouTube, and can keep your data down. So replay these days looks like this. This is a rare one where it's actually loaded in page, but the most reliable, fastest replay is often through the banner, and we can see Mark Carney speaking like this. So when a user like Mark Carney has more than one video watch page, they get a handle like this one at Canadian PM. And when it's added to that main host, this becomes their YouTube channel. So if you're calling the top page of the channel, you would cut your URL off here. We often recommend crawling a second page for the channel with the videos page here. So that indexes all of the videos that it can collect. And that way the access to any videos that have been collected can be from this page if you right-click these thumbnail images. Again, that seed format's important. On the videos page, please don't add a trailing slash or any extra parameters, and make sure that host is www so that you get that same kind of auto scoping that the watch page gets. The difference here is I recommend a standard seed type that allows the crawler to collect as many of these videos as it can before it gets rate limited. If it hasn't been rate limited and collected the video, then you can open that video in a new watch page and replay it through the banner. So this example, is from the Library and Archives Canada, but I've recrawled it for this. So thank you, Kevin. You would open that link in a new tab. And this was in the middle of indexing, but I opened it earlier and you can see the replay again through the banner. Eventually.
Bonjour tout le monde.
So there are some other YouTube formats that are possible in 2025, including playlists, shorts, and live streams. So playlists are a little bit more challenging even. They are shorter collections of videos within the channel, often centered around a theme, like my example for Mark Carney's international page. They have watch pages listed in an order, and they ideally, when they're collected, they can be opened in new tabs similar to the watch pages. Each watch page will have an index number in their URL. So the playlist itself with all of the thumbnails has playlist in its URL and a unique string for that playlist, which we see again in the videos. We'll see the individual video ID and then the list ID and then the index number. So this is the ideal presentation of those playlist URL video watch pages. However, in way back, these often get a little bit jumbled up, and that also challenges replay. So I apologize for that. However, the version up to the end of the unique video ID is often collected and can often be replayed through the banner if you can find it in your host report. Shorts, it's right there in the title. These are shorter duration videos, often under 1 minute, and they are served on a feed where the current video you're viewing rises to the top, similar to TikTok, I imagine, or I know. But we know it's a feed because it will have this shorts in the URL. And then this alphanumeric string represents the video that's at the top that you're viewing. Once that's finished, another video will load and this string changes. So the challenge for the crawler is that it can often only collect that top video. It won't be able to collect any subsequent videos. And naturally, if that's the only one collected, it's the only one that can replay. And it's usually through the banner. So it looks something like this one. Oh, sorry. If I hide that. This one can actually pay through the page, I think, but maybe not. It definitely can replay through the banner once it reloads. I apologize for not having this one ready to go. So as you can see, sometimes that's one of the challenges as well, is just waiting for that full load of a page. And you can try this on our public collection. You can try loading it yourself. I'm just gonna, for the sake of time, carry on to live streams. So these are kind of the opposite of shorts. They're longer videos of live events that are simultaneously broadcast on YouTube. So if these event is ongoing and the broadcast is still occurring, our crawlers cannot collect that video yet. Once it completes, thanks to the optimizations this year by our engineering team, you can now try to collect those videos of the longer events. Just be warned that these are often things like school board meetings or convocations or concerts that are multi-hour events, and there's a lot of data associated with that. They're often multiple gigabytes across multiple works, so the replay can be complicated by that as well. The URL often looks just like a watch page URL, so that's a little bit misleading. You have to look carefully at the page itself, and there's often an indication under the title that it was a streamed event. And often the length of the video can also indicate that. So you can see that here for this question period watch page, that it was a live stream from 2 weeks ago. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to collect that MP4 for this 50-minute live stream. We can see that because there's 0 archived media items of 0 and no play button. My guess is that it was protected by that bot protection. Probably the most challenging kind of video to collect out of all of them are embedded YouTube videos. So these are videos that are hosted on YouTube, but they're embedded on another host's web page through an iframe. And this is my example from UC Irvine for their Digital Media Library Learning Conference in 2017, hosted at dmlhub.net. So I'm not sure if this webpage is compliant until I run a test crawl and check that host report like Sylvie suggested for the Youtube-dl entry. If it's not there, don't despair. It could possibly still be compliant. You could try re-crawling it with Browser and checking the host report again. You can also submit a support ticket, and we can help verify if this page is Youtube-dlp compliant or not. Or you can even try downloading your own version of Youtube-dlp on your machine and checking that URL that way. If you know after some of these strategies that it is compliant, it will not have auto scoping because it doesn't have the www.youtube.com post. So you have 2 strategies you can try here to add scoping to help the crawler. If you want to collect embedded video across your collection, you can add 3 scoping rules to ignore robots.txt on these hosts: youtube.com, googlevideo.com, and ytimg.com. And I just want to note, if you change your mind and you're not interested in the embedded video any longer, you can toggle these off for future crawls. Another strategy we use sometimes to focus the crawler on these pages with these embedded videos is to take the video page itself, that URL, and add it as an additional second helper seed. So this is a one-page seed that should still collect the embedded content, but it's set to private so it doesn't become an access point on your public collection page. If you do try this, a strategy, I would recommend adding ignore robots.txt to that URL, and also a second one to avoid the crawler traps that YouTube can present to the crawlers. So that's matching the regular expression. And don't worry, this is in our help center. You can find it on the archiving YouTube help page under default scoping. If we can collect the videos on these embedded pages, the chances that it replays in page, it's possible, but it's very rare. More often we see these placeholders like black boxes or thumbnail images, or sometimes they're simply blank. So the UC Irvine example here, we can see there's blank spaces for these 8 videos, but we did collect them because we have 8 out of 8 archived media items, and they will replay through the banner. And you can advance to the other videos with the arrows and replay those as well. Our next most popular video platform is Vimeo. So Vimeo operates similar to YouTube. It has watch pages for individual YouTube's or Vimeo videos, and then channels. But the channels are not very archive friendly. We can get some partial replay for the Vimeo watch pages. So they look like this. They often have the host vimeo.com and then a numeric string that uniquely identifies the video in the page. Vimeo, the platform, serves these videos in segments called MP2T, and YouTube-dlp together with FFmpeg stitches them together into one discrete MP4 file. So for this reason, the most reliable replay is through the banner. It often will throw a player error in the page. Sometimes it will replay that first segment, but this isn't unusual. If we want to see the video, we can often load it here. If the Vimeo video is embedded on another web page, first of all, that web page also needs to be compliant with YouTube-dlp, so you go through those same steps as you would for YouTube embedded video. But if you add an helper seed, you can add this additional scoping role to accept that URL if it matches the cert.com, vimeocdn.com. So don't worry, this is also in our help center under the archiving Vimeo help page. And there are so many other platforms with video. In 2025, we can see some partial replay for videos from Instagram, X, and TikTok. I want to point out, though, that this doesn't occur in the banner on the main feed. You'll have to be on the video page itself or the post itself. So for Instagram, you're going to look for the reel directory. For X, you're going to look for a status directory, and for TikTok, a video directory. I think it's kind of exciting because we don't see often good replay for Instagram overall in the past few years, but we can still see the videos. Sometimes we're lucky and these x.com videos will replay in page, but they most reliably play through that banner. For TikTok, it's kind of a tricky situation. Sometimes it will replay in page, but I think the most reliable replay is through that banner.
We're launching.
And some news media sites are YouTube-dlp compliant, others are not. So it's kind of hit and miss. A lot of news sites do have additional rights management or rights restrictions on their embedded videos. But here's an example of one that works from the Luxembourg News Media collection. You have to be on the article or story itself with the video, though it probably won't work from the main page. So on this story, I can watch the video by playing that banner there. So I hope this gives you some hope that we can collect some videos, um, and they can be replayed, if not in page through the Wayback Banner. Now I'm going to stop and hand things back to Sylvie for some troubleshooting steps that you can take if things aren't looking quite as you expect.
Thanks, Tanya. And I should mention that you all are welcome to ask any questions in the chat. If you have any questions as they come up, we will have time at the end for more questions, of course. But I failed to mention that in the beginning. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what you can do just to ensure that you're doing everything possible to either make sure you're collecting the videos you want or replaying them in the page. So generally, as I mentioned, always generally, we recommend Browser if you know that video capture is a priority. But YTDLP does run on both crawlers, so standard crawler will also has more enhanced video collection capabilities, but Browser is still better at getting things like the embedded players, things like that, the pieces needed to actually replay more complex videos. So Browser is still recommended. And then when it comes to actually loading videos, again, we generally recommend using Chrome. It tends to be more reliable than other browsers. That doesn't mean that Firefox won't load it or that other browsers won't load it, but we, in our experience, have seen that Chrome tends to be the most reliable. Being patient is another quick tip because video files do tend to take longer to load than other page elements. So if you're able to wait a minute or two before assuming that replay failed, give it a little extra time just to see if that video actually loads. And this is true if you see that the video was collected in the banner. Give that page just a little bit extra time and see if you're able to get that page to load before checking in with us. And then finally, this one is specific to YouTube. Chanya mentioned that YouTube can have all sorts of different parameters on their URLs that really kind of switch up what archive crawlers see, what Wayback sees, what ends up actually loading. And one example of that is dark mode. This was kind of an unusual one where we learned that if dark mode is enabled on your browser, it can sometimes cause YouTube pages to redirect to a version of the URL that wasn't collected because it adds a little extra parameter to the end of that URL. So if you are trying to load YouTube pages and you're finding that they redirect to a version that has not been collected and not an archive page, if you have dark mode enabled, try turning that off. It might help. Let's talk a little bit quickly about kind of how you can use YTDLP or Youtube-dl in your crawl reports to get more information about what was collected, what wasn't, and what you can do with it. So I mentioned in the beginning that each video needs two files, the video file and its corresponding metadata file for playback to work. Now, metadata file will be generated for each page that Youtube-dl runs on or YTDLP runs on. And then the video files themselves will show up as individual files. Now, that means that there may be one metadata page for, a handful of video files if that page has more than one video on it. But in general, you will need the video file and the corresponding metadata to replay the videos. So if you are curious to know whether you've collected video or you're looking at a Wayback Capture and you are missing video, the first thing we recommend doing is taking a look at your crawl's host report to see if YTDLP ran. And you'll know because you'll see YouTube, again, this is going to say YouTube-dl. You'll see it listed. So if you see YouTube-dl listed in your crawl's host report, you know that it actually did run during the crawl. If you don't, I think Tanya mentioned this already, but we recommend just giving it one more try. Again, websites are funny. And sometimes it's just worth giving it another chance to just make sure to check and make sure that that YouTube-dl won't run, or if maybe it will run. If you run two crawls and you're still not seeing it, send us a ticket. We're happy to help try to figure out why it's not running. If YT-dlp did run and you see it in your crawl report, you're gonna want to take a look for the collected files for both the video and the metadata elements. Now I want to use this as my example. So let's go ahead and take a look at the crawl report. We're going to click into YouTube-dl here and see there are all of these videos with the numeric string in there. These are the video files themselves. You'll see these at the top because they are usually bigger, more data heavy. And then if we scroll down a bit, we start to see the metadata records, and these are the ones that are not going to have that numeric string in there. So I'm going to search for a particular watch page that I'm curious about. Give it a chance to think. It's thinking real hard. All right, there we go. So here we have the URL for the video that was collected and for the metadata record. And if we opened up the video, the one with the numeric string, we can see that we're pointed to a playable video. I have a little zoom icon in my corner of my screen, so I can't click the play button, but it plays. Here we can see kind of it moving around. Oh gosh. Well, pretend I didn't do that. But if you click the play button, it works. And then we have the metadata file. And then again, this is not super helpful for a human, but Wayback does use it to identify the video file and the page on which it was discovered. So Tanya mentioned this already, but I want to reiterate, there are a few reasons why we would expect YT-dlp not to run or not to get everything. One of those is rate limiting, especially for YouTube seeds. But we do occasionally also see this on embedded YouTube videos on other sites. So again, this might look like YouTube-dl not running at all. It might look like only a handful of videos having been collected when you expect to get much more. So that's something you may encounter. And then another common reason why YT-dlp might not run is because the platform or the page is not YT-dlp compliant. Now, there are thousands of different platforms, video players, things like that, that are compliant, and they're continuing to add to this, but there's going to be some out there that are not. You can test this on your own if you are up to downloading YT-dlp and running it on your end. But if you are curious, if you're having trouble getting a video, if you're seeing that YT-dlp, YouTube-dl is not running and you're not seeing it in your crawl reports, let us know and we can confirm whether or not the page or the platform is compliant. I want to talk a little bit about some considerations to keep in mind when you are running crawls, just in general, but specifically when you are hoping to get video content. Because Wayback requires that metadata and the video file, videos will need to have been collected by YouTube-dl or YT-dlp to replay in Wayback. This means that you might not be able to play videos from prior to YouTube-dl being included in archive its crawlers. This is something we are working on. It's not currently something we have a fix for, but it's something to keep in mind. It is possible that archive its crawlers will also collect these video files. You would, if that were the case, so if, for example, a page is not YouTube-dl or YT-dlp compliant, but Browsler was able to collect the video, you have the video, that's great. Unfortunately, it still will not replay in the page, so that's something to consider. Patch crawls do not run YTDLP, so that means that they're not really going to be helpful in picking up missing videos. They may help pick up pieces of embedded media players, but even if a patch crawl were to collect the video, it's not going to be replayable. And for the same reasons that I've already mentioned, captures from uploaded works will generally not replay videos as well. Again, because they don't have the YouTube-dl record or metadata. So those are things to keep in mind when you are collecting. There are also some considerations to keep in mind regarding data. And I know that this is definitely on people's minds. So YTDLP will run on any in-scope page that contains embedded media, unless you tell it not to, which we'll talk about in a second. YTDLP does not adhere to scope rules. This is a big one. So it's possible that it will collect videos on an in-scope page that ArchiveIt's crawlers would have otherwise deemed out of scope. So for example, if you have scoped out Google Video and you crawl a page that has an embedded video on it that happens to be served by Google Video, YTDLP might get that video. And YTDLP does not reliably deduplicate against itself or against previously collected videos, against itself during a crawl or against previously collected videos. So you do tend to see more data from YTDLP in your crawls. I'm sure this is something that folks have noticed. So with those in mind, we have introduced a new scope rule that can help limit some of the data that you're getting from YTDLP. This is the exclude audio and video scope rule. And you will see it, where to find it. It's available as a seed level rule. So that means it applies to a given seed to which it's added and any content discovered from that seed. And what this rule does is it actually does prevent YTDLP from running on that seed or anything discovered from that seed. And it excludes audio and video MIME types from the crawl's scope. So that means that YTDLP will not run. And if, for example, if Browser were to discover an MP3 file or MP4 file, those files will also be excluded. They will be considered out of scope because they've been scoped out based on their MIME type or their file type. So I know I did mention, I should have worded this differently, but YTDLP doesn't adhere to most scope rules. It will listen to this one. So if you don't want to collect video, this is a really great rule to use. And we have seen a lot of partners using this in a way, in different ways to kind of limit how much data they're getting from especially recurring crawls. So if you're concerned about the amount of data that is being collected, especially from video, you might consider turning on the exclude audio and video rule on seeds from which you know you don't require audiovisual content. You might consider turning it on after an initial successful crawl of video content from a given seed. So maybe you have the videos and you want to continue to crawl this site on a regular basis. You don't expect the videos to change. Turn on exclude audio and video so you don't get those videos again and again. You should still be able to see replay the video either in the page or in the banner if it was if the video still remains on the page that's collected. You could turn the rule on selectively, for example, a few times a year if you're crawling a site monthly. That way you get the video updates, but you're not getting them over and over again. Or for example, for a primary seed, like a main website, you can turn this rule on and then add the video section as a helper seed and crawl that less frequently. I know a lot of these are very manual, so it does involve a bit of extra work to try to limit the data that you're getting from YTDLP. This is something that we are working on. So upcoming current work that's being done for data deduplication improvement specifically is work to kind of run a pre-run check against previous collected YouTube pages. Right now, these are specific to YouTube content, but we'll see how this goes and then try to expand it to other video content in the future. But right now, the kind of feature that we're working on is allowing YTDLP to check check whether a page has been collected recently before recrawling it. So this would ideally avoid frequent recollection of the same YouTube videos. It may also improve the speed at which the crawlers are able to move. That means the crawls might be running more efficiently, which is good. And it also might kind of help with things like rate limiting. So if we are not interacting with a YouTube channel as much during a crawl, we may be able to get more of that content. So that's what we are hoping for with this new feature. We are actively working on this, anticipated either later this year, early 2026. We are also expecting some improvements to YTDLP. Again, this is not a tool that we manage, but the community is working on a new version. And the Archive It team are laying the groundwork to implement that version once it is released. This includes a more fully featured JavaScript interpreter, among other things, but this will help improve access to more of those media files that may be blocked for different reasons. So I think on the YTDLP site, it says something like coming soon. Hard to tell exactly what that means, but we are going to be ready for it once it's available, and we'll release it when we have it. And I don't have this on here, but we are also planning to start reviving the Archive It release notes section. So we will have this information for you if you are ever curious what version of YTDLP is running, or what changes have been made in the past month or so. This is something we are also hoping to revive in the very near future. So we have that information for you, so you have more insight into what we're doing. And on that note, we really would love to know what you think. So what video related capabilities specific to video, because that's why we're here, would have the biggest impact for you and your work? What would you like to see next as we improve video support? What kind of reporting or visualizations would be especially helpful? We would love to hear from you on these topics, on these questions, anything related. If you have anything you'd like to share now, you're welcome to drop things in the chat. Or follow up with us. I think Tanya is going to share, or I can do it. Do you have it, Tanya? A link to our discovery call sign up form. So if you would like to have a conversation with us about what you want to see from video or other things related to Archive It, we would really love to hear from you. We're in a great place right now for Archive It, where we have laid a lot of groundwork on the back end, and that means we can start doing more development on the front end. So you are going to start seeing more features, more improvements, things like that, which I'm really excited to say. Yeah, so again, love to hear from you here, or signing up for a call with us. If you have a question and I think you could raise your hand and unmute as needed. I do see that a handful of things came through.
Yes, they did. In the chat?
Yes.
Yeah, so a question from Hillary Wang. Do you have any ideas or strategies for how to teach or convey to users to locate video files in the replay banner? We've created an access note in our seed metadata, but that would require that users actually read this note.
Look at it. Yeah. That's a great question. It's something that I think we are thinking about as we are starting to develop plans for updates to the access pages on archive.org. So your collection and organization pages, and then also maybe even, more contextual information in the Wayback Banner. I'd be curious if anyone else has thoughts on this. Any other attendees here have done anything within the current capabilities of your archive accounts? But I do think that, adding metadata is kind of what we recommend right now, just because that's really the only place that we can provide that kind of information. So if anyone else has any recommendations for Hillary for ways that you have provided this information to your users, please feel free to share that.
We had some other questions or comments as well. Another one was from Sarah Weeks, and she said she hasn't needed to limit the video in this manner yet, but have long wished to limit this file type. So thank you for making it possible.
We're
So
really
thank you.
glad that we can do that too. And I think it also paves the way for other opportunities for limiting by file type. So that's something we're considering for the future as well.
Martin Nemeth asks, it should be useful if YouTube-dl could be blocked by collection level also.
Yes. Yeah, this is really helpful feedback too, because we'd love to know where you would like to be able to kind of add these limiting rules.
There's also a second part to that.
Mhm.
If there are videos of different quality, it could be useful to customize it from the archive at user interface.
Mm. I'd love to hear more about that, Martin, if you ever want to share more details about what you'd like that to look like. That's really interesting.
Okay, so hi,
Hi.
Sylvie. We have just discovered that the Publications Office of the European Union, this new function, and by default, we are not crawling videos. But sometimes our partners from the different EU general directorates and institutions are requiring to call the videos, and it's a problem for us that YouTube-dl is crawling, as we are experiencing, all the versions of these videos. So from 480p till full HD resolution.
Mhm.
So it can be really useful to us if we could choose in this case the resolution, because in this case it takes a lot storage place,
Mhm.
and later we can't distinguish that which version we could keep
Yeah, I know that.
or not. So my colleague just mentioned this issue on the last week in our last weekly meeting, team meeting. So that's why I shared with you. It's a brand new topic for us also.
Sure. And I know that I think like if you were to run YouTube-dl yourself, there are some, or YTDLP, there are ways that you can kind of pick and choose the versions that you collect. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think that that's something we can definitely we may consider in the future is more options for users to configure what version is collected. It's not something we currently have on our roadmap, but it's good to know that that's something you'd be interested
Yeah.
in. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your answer, and thanks the opportunity to talk about these issues.
Sure, thanks. I see a question from Megan asking if we expect YTDLP to be integrated in patch calls at some point. possibly, I think this is something we've talked about a little bit, but you know, it's not, it's definitely something we should probably consider. Let's see. Yeah, organizations have libguides with troubleshooting tips for their users and a way to include a link to a libguide on Archive It that would draw the eye of the user. Yeah, this is absolutely something we're thinking about. Whether that's, you know, a way to link out to something external from your collections or provide that kind of contextual information on a page somewhere, maybe both. Thank you for that. I know we're coming up, I see. Yeah, we're coming up to the end of the hour. So I just want to thank everyone again for joining us today. I really, really appreciate your time. I know we all do. And you're welcome to get in touch with us if you have specific questions. Of course, always, you know, we're here. If you want to submit a support ticket, you can email our team at ait@archive.org, or you can email me, sylvia@archive.org. Consider signing up for a discovery call. We would really love to hear what you're thinking about, where things are working, where they aren't, and how we can make it better. So we'll hang out a little bit longer in case anyone else has questions, but I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day if you don't. And we will be in touch. Keep up. Thanks.
Thank you.